as a language
Yes, please.
that I, as a language acquisition teacher for DP, face regularly. It is
Mm-hmm.
about, you said that we also have to create and use our own resources for
Yes,
teaching,
it depends
right?
on the level of the students. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the components is listening, which is an important part of paper two.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So for
Mm-hmm.
listening, it is we have very limited resources. Even on IBO,
Yes.
CRC,
Yes.
we have
Yes.
very limited resources. I mean, in fact, only
Yes.
one
Maybe
or two
four or five.
sample.
You
Yes,
will
sample
find.
of the sample and specimen papers we
Yes.
have.
Yes. Yes.
Apart from that, we have to use basically our own resources. But
Mm-hmm.
listening is one area where they need to be acquainted and familiarized with the native accents and
Yes.
the authentic audio text in Spanish. So, for example, my language is Spanish. So sometimes I
Okay.
use YouTube videos
Mm-hmm.
for listening practice. So what are the other
Yes.
things that we can use for particularly for the
Okay.
listening,
Very
based on
good
your
question, Ram. That
experience? Share
that's
some
that's
insights.
something that I said that I faced a lot. Because initially I was struggling to find resources here and there, and what I did, I talked to my coordinator, Miss Sujata, who is also one of the hosts of this event, because I worked with her in Pledge Harbor for almost 5 years. So what she suggested me, and I'm going to tell you the same thing, which actually helped me a lot. She said that look for small clips. Small clips means, as you mentioned, that YouTube and maybe some short movies. There are some very good movies as well, but that makes our job a little harder, and we have to invest some more time. What I used to do, whenever I used to pick some movies or the clips, I used to prepare some questions based on that. Ram, because this is very important, because if you do not give them any task, it is just watching a video. And what I used to do before I present the video or share the video or take it as a task, I always used to take some questions, just like the listening part actually would have in the exam paper. Maybe if I'm taking, say, for example, if I'm taking one video of 10 minutes, okay? So I used to listen first and I used to put some questions according to my understanding, which would help them in not only listening but also able to make them answer those questions after listening to those videos, maybe watching those videos or listening to those audios. I think I made it very clear that how I used to do it, and that was very helpful for my students, because I live in a country, Bangladesh. You know that this is not our first language, for sure. And a lot of students, they struggle with the language, especially when we call it a target language, the native accents, the native speaking process, and some of the nuances that they hardly understand when it is played in that pace, in that very pace, because we are speaking, we are not even close to the native speakers. Okay, but when it is native, so it is very difficult for them to pick those accents, those nuances, and it gets very difficult on them even to reply to those or to understand. And even if you ask them, sometimes they even do not know what exactly that particular word means. So I used to set up the task like that, Rob. I hope
Yeah, thank you for
that
sharing
can
that.
help.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that helps a lot, because Miss Sujata used to tell me that whenever you are planning a task, you always keep that in mind, that whether your students are able to understand or not. Is my screen visible still?
No, it isn't.
Okay, just allow me some time. Hmm. What? Madhvi,
Can I also add
my
here
sorry.
regarding
Yes,
I'm
yes,
told one regarding
yes, yes,
teaching listening? Like I would like to share what I do actually,
yes,
irrespective of
please.
whether it's PYP, MYP, or DP students, any EFL or ESL students. For example, what I do uh, is while I'm teaching listening or speaking,
Hmm.
I normally use PDP framework, which is called pre, during, and post. during
Yes.
pre um, level. I normally pre-teach vocabulary or elicit some ideas or warm them up, engage them actually, introduce them to the topic. And depending, since normally in ESL classes, there are different kinds of neurodivergent children are there, foreigners are there. So you actually introduce them to the topic and let them engage with the vocabulary, prepare them for listening. And I think we always have to prepare them questions or something to do. They need to have a task so that they have some purpose
Absolutely.
to listening.
Yes,
So during listening,
absolutely,
again, you
absolutely.
prepare either like general questions. First, they have to listen and understand
Or
where
maybe
it's.
multiple choice questions.
Yeah. And a second time when they listen, or for the third time, you give them more specific questions like MCQs,
Yes,
or answer the
absolutely.
questions after they are familiar with the text. Sorry. So, and later on, for post listening or for post viewing, so what you can do, you can use some personalized questions, personalizations. If you were the character, for example, what would
Yes,
you have done or
yes,
something like that. So it's
yes, yes,
actually helpful irrespective of the proficiency level
yes,
or
true.
age. It's really helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Perceptive skills.
that's another way of even teaching them, how to adopt the nuances of that language as well.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it is difficult sometimes to understand, because as I said that we are all non-native speakers. It gets very hard on us when we even teach them those, intricate, maybe the sounds, or maybe how they pronounce certain words, or how they speak in certain ways. So it is very difficult. So when we actually design the task based on their levels, and as Chalpan may already mentioned, that when you are allowing them to listen again and again, and then you design the task, it not only gets into their head, it also helps them, repeat the same thing that they're listening. It is another way of learning the language when they are actually intending to learn from a very early age. And by the time they reach to DP, it gets into their head and they are more confident while delivering those things. Am I right, Chalpan?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So this is in DP, in the context of DP, the five themes that we must actually teach them throughout 2 years, of course. As also Ram mentioned, that sharing the planet, the environment, this one he already mentioned. So if you look at these things, we teach them in every single curriculum from PYP to DP. In PYP, we divide them into the six transdisciplinary theme and we put them into it. In MYP, we design the inquiry-based learning, and then we design according to their phases, phase one, two, three, four, five, like that. And in DP, of course, based on our total syllabus, we do teach them. You can see that under identities there are also some sub themes. We call them themes, and these are the sub themes. So in every single, curriculum like PYP, MYP, and DP, we are teaching them, okay, uh, sometimes in a synchronized way, sometimes in the asynchronized way, but we are teaching them. Though how to design them, it depends on the teacher and the level of the students. Always, I always say this, the level of the students, because we are teaching an acquisition, subject. So we need to understand that the levels will always be difficult to find, as per our expectation. They will never be at par our thinking. They will always have some ups and downs like that. So we have to design and deliver the content and the context of the content according to their levels all the time. Please do add if someone wants to add something, based on that. And now this one, you can see that Ram, you can relate to me more than anyone else, I guess. And if there is someone who is also teaching DP, I would appreciate if they can share their, struggle while delivering these things. Natalia, I'm not sure that which level you teach, but I would appreciate if you just unmute yourself and share something with us.
Yes.
Natalia?
Uh,
Hello.
yes.
Hi.
Hi. I
Hi.
was teaching DP in 2018, but then I
Okay.
moved to Spain for a language assistant program. So I'm a
Okay.
little out of touch, and that's why I joined
Okay.
the session to catch up a
No
little.
problem. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm
Mm.
moving on to the text types that we must actually. This is although I have taken it from the DP Language B guide, but these things we teach throughout the program actually, from PYP, then to MYP, and finally in the DP level. So if you see, should I zoom my screen a bit so that it can be easier for you? If you can see that number one is personal text, then professional text, and finally the mass media text. And if I move on to the next slide, you will have better understanding that whether we teach them throughout our IB program or not. I'm just going here. Okay, Ram, I want your help here, because if I'm only talking, that doesn't make any sense. I want you to, share the view as well. So when I talk about this text, what comes to your mind, everyone? Because do you think that these are very essential skills that we are actually teaching throughout our acquisition courses,
I
respective? Yes.
so I do explore these with the students throughout the MYP, and I
Yes.
do several exercises in different levels, and I ask them to be the ones presenting the difference between the texts.
Okay.
Usually it's useful for them because they are the ones doing the research. They choose
Yes.
which text they want to present in the class, and
Mhm.
it's listening, and then I can help them and elaborate on that and provide more features of each text so that it will help
Mhm.
them get a better understanding of the differences between them.
Okay. Okay. That's one aspect, and another aspect is that I'm not sure who was talking to me because I'm on another screen. Can you please tell me? Oh, hi. Yes. So, Rosaline, can I call you Rosaline or Lima?
Rosalinda, it's okay.
Rosalind. Okay, okay, fine, Rosalind. Okay, yes. So one thing, what I have seen is that when I talk about these three types of, text, it is not only applicable in teaching; it is also applicable in the practical life. I think we all agree to that, because the blog, diary, email, yes, personal letter are nowadays an obsolete figure. Social media posting or chat room. When we're teaching them, I'm starting from the personal text, when we're teaching them or telling them how to do these things, we're basically preparing them whether they can take up these things to the next level or not, Rosalinda, if I'm not wrong. Because the blogs nowadays have become a passion for so many people. Hardly people you will find that they are writing diaries anymore, but the email, yes, it's a communication process or the tool that we use when we are going to the university level and further to the professional level. Okay. And personal letters, yes, a lot of people still use that. Social media posting. Rosalinda, would you mind sharing that? Do you also tell them to be respectful towards the community and how to use
Oh,
the language?
yes, yes, we have,
Yes.
and we use opportunities when they are doing their community project, when they are contacting
Yes.
different organizations. So it's always with the real life examples where they know how to address and what is the difference. I am
Mhm.
very careful on the way that I send messages to them. Even
Yes.
if I post them on ManageBack and all of that, they always find it strange the first time they receive, because I will be always, dear students, comment, and I
Yes.
have the message, and then I have kindly, and then I have my signature. So I have all the features I try to model for them, and I always
Mhm.
refer situations where they see that, where they find that, and where
Yes.
they apply things in real world context.
Yes, absolutely. What I do is that I always show them that whenever they're joining any group, in the social media, whether it's Twitter or maybe Facebook or some other social media, I always made them read the do's and don'ts. uh, do you know why? Because it is something that we hardly notice that there are some guidelines and regulations always posted that if you violate those, your post will not be accepted. So these are the things I always try to teach them in a very practical way. I show them that this is. Did you ever read them? Most of them says always nodding the head and said no, we don't. But I said that you need to, because whenever you are posting something, some posts never get accepted because you are not following the protocols that are mentioned already in that social media platform. So this is important. And now moving on to the professional text, as I mentioned earlier, blogs are very popular nowadays. People are earning a lot by making blogs. Rosalinda, if I'm not wrong, right? This is something has become more of like a passion and profession at the same time for so many people. Email writing, essay, how to actually put your essay in order, formal letter, proposal, the questionnaire. These are the practical things that we are teaching them, which will definitely help them in their future. And then moving on to the mass media text. This area is mostly, my favorite. I don't know whether you all will agree or not. It is something that allow us to know a lot about what is happening around the world, because the article, if I move on to the article or the advertisement, I'm showing you one thing. If you allow me, just give me 1 minute so that I can show you something which will help you to understand that why am I saying that. um, you know this is something that I thought. I don't know whether you have ever seen this or not, this image. Yes. uh, this one, have you ever seen that? Is my
I,
screen
I think you'll have
visible?
to
You are
switch.
still sharing the previous screen.
I have to stop sharing the previous screen, or I think I can share the whole screen of mine. Just give me 1 minute. Stop sharing, and then I have to move on to the other one. Just a minute, Rosalinda. One window, or the entire screen, I guess. Yes, I'm sharing my entire screen right now. Can you see that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. This is, I don't know whether any one of you have seen it or not before. Is there anyone who saw this picture before?
I have.
Okay. So this is something that when I mentioned about this one, as I said, advertisement. This is one such example that was actually 1976, I think, Playboy magazine advertisement, where the women are shown in a very disgraceful manner, if you can see that. So when I talk to them about this thing, they'll learn a lot about the equality, which is one of the themes that I have mentioned in this. Okay, when I say equality, if you can see it, can you see my screen right now? Equality,
Yes.
okay, and human rights. It goes with both, and also it goes with the, you know, I would say the entertainment. What limitations should entertainment have, and how an entertainment should be taken up. So everything actually goes within it. So this is how I sometimes plan the text, delivering the text as well. So then I'm moving on to here again. And then there is opinion column. The students can also share their opinion based on this advertisement. Am I right, Rosalinda?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Yes. So then they can also have a public commentary or editorial based on that. See, there are so many options open in front of us when we think out of the box and when we think ahead, because the planning is very necessary for all of us. So here I have written, are these all necessary to teach? So this is a question Of course, there are 29, I think, one, two, three, four, five. If you count them, 29 text types. Are we supposed to teach them all? Is it all beneficial? So there is a summary that I have actually put up here. It is beneficial for students to be exposed to a variety of text, yes, but key is to strike a balance that allows for a deeper understanding and practical application of the language skill. As I said, that when I show them that advertisement or that commercial, it can ignite a lot of thoughts within their mind. It can help them to think whether I can put it up as an article for the newspaper, whether I can go on doing some interviews of the people, what their perspective is, whether there can be an opinion column or not, whether there can be a public commentary or not. A lot of things can be done within the same parameter by using different methods and approaches. Teachers may select a representative range of text types that collectively provide a comprehensive understanding of language structure, style, and communication strategies without necessarily covering every text type in exhaustive detail. So, finally, I also said that not necessarily you need to cover every single text type. You can always look for the past papers, okay, which I do and I did, uh, and then pick that what are the common text types that are basically focusing by the by the examiners of the IB in the past 10, 15 years. We easily get an understanding that what should be our target, how many text types we should target to teach. Okay, may I move on to the next one? If anyone has a question, please do ask me.
I just
Can I
want to
ask a
add,
question? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Can I go ahead?
Whoever wants to. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
please.
Like, I just wanted to ask, for example, if we choose to teach certain types of texts and if we do not cover the rest, and what if during the final assessment, summative assessment, I mean the IB one, uh, this the type, the text type which we have not covered, if they give that type, what are students supposed to do?
Okay. Is that Chalpan?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. So the fact is that, as I mentioned, that you need to look into the past exam papers, because if you study the past exam papers, Chalpan, it gets very easy to understand that how many text types are commonly coming every year. There are some patterns for that. And based on that, there are something that you should always focus on. Maybe you can cover at least 10 to 12 out of here. And for sure, out of 10, 12, you will get two common text types. This is my experience. From my experience, I'm telling you, because they do not, most of the time they do not cover from all text types like personal, professional, and mass media. What do? They pick the very useful text types. That means either they will tell you to write an email or a letter, or like maybe an article, or maybe they can say about a podcast, because podcasts are nowadays very common, opinion column, and speech reviews. These are very common. If you study the past question papers, Chalpan, it gets very easy for us to understand that if we cover these areas, at least two, three, and if we focus on that more and more, because leaflets we can practice during the MYP classes, because these are very useful during that time. Literature part is basically for the HL students. News report always comes with, you can align it with the article, newspaper article, opinion column. This, a few things can be aligned together, Chalpan, so that it gets easy on us to deliver, and it also gets easy on the students to understand and accept. Is your question answered?
Yes, thank you. So we have to basically teach them what is commonly used and what is useful
Yes.
for them at this particular
Yes,
time. Okay.
absolutely. Because if you go on, maybe the travel guide, it is very useful when you're teaching them in the MYP level. Maybe you can tell them that if you can show them the videos, and you can tell them you can share a lot of videos to them, YouTube videos or maybe some other available things. And most of the time the kids also travel to different destination. Okay, maybe you can ask them that from the pictures that you have taken in different travel destinations that you've been to so far, can you make a travel guide? So that's a practical thing, and it is also going to help them to showcase their experience, because when they are writing their own travel guide, they will definitely use the pictures, whatever the things they have seen there, whatever the food they have tasted there, that will give them a lot more practical experience sharing opportunities to the community, and to the that will also give them an opportunity to showcase what they feel about certain places. So this is how you can align the things.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like, for example,
Thank you.
when the students are with you during the continuum from BYP, then MYP, then DP, you can gradually introduce them. But sometimes you have to teach students whose level, I mean, proficiency level is very basic. And for them to
Mhm.
understand the difference in styles and all those things is very difficult. Like, as per me, they just able to understand personal emails, like to begin
Mhm.
with. Can give them that. So for them,
Mhm.
we need to give more information and spend more time with them to build their skill.
Yes, yes. Another thing I want to share here, say for example, if you want to teach them the, say for example, set of instructions. This is something that we usually do not actually focus on during the DP level, but of course during the PYP and MYP level for the acquisition. Set of instruction. Show them, I'm giving you one very, nice example. How can you actually tell them? Show them the student handbook of your school. The student's handbook. So this one, you will find a lot of instructions given there. This is one thing that they can learn practically, that why do you think that these instructions are set for the students, and then ask them to imagine that you are a principal of a school, and how many instructions would you like to put into your set of instruction book. Okay, so then they can own their own their opinion. So when they're writing something, they will think from a different perspective, because you are going to of course explain them that you're the principal, you're not the student anymore. So how do you think that a student should actually behave? Should they come with the uniform? If they say that no, I don't want my students to come with the uniform, so we should always respect their perspective. So this is how they own their opinion, Chalpan. So that's a very good example of teaching them
Yeah,
in
thank you very much.
using
And
the
it's also
practical.
personalized also. They can, at the same
Yes,
time, they get the like
yes,
content, they will understand the meaning, and plus they learn
yes,
the skill and the
absolutely.
genre.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you very much.
Thank you. So now we're moving on to the HL and the SL level. So this is something that when we are teaching the DP level, it
Yeah,
is very
excuse me, I
important.
think Rosalinda want to speak.
Yes, yes, please. Is that Ram?
I was going to add something,
Yes,
an
sure, please.
activity that I usually do, and I found
Yes,
it useful for the text types and
yes.
genres, that I provide one session with several types of text on the
Mhm.
tables, and they go around and they need to identify, and they need to discuss why they call it a blog, why they call it. So they have the list of different texts, and
Mhm.
with that they tick the ones that are there, and they will explain their choices, why they were.
That's a
And there's
great
a
example.
basic way of getting them to understand the terminology that will appear, and then they can identify it. And from that on, you can explore and work in depth on the ones that they need to prepare for the exam.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. That's a very good way of actually teaching them and using their critical thinking. Because when they're reading, of course, they're using their critical thinking, which is going to help them in differentiating between the text types and also the genres. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. Yes, Ram, you were about to share something, I guess.
No, I was just I mean, I didn't understand the question properly, but I think the question was about text types. Do we have to teach all these text types? So I
Yes.
think on PRC, there is a list of text types for each level. For example, for ab initio students, you have to teach certain. We don't have to teach all the text types.
Yes,
So
yes,
for ab initio, SL, and HL, it is clearly defined what are the text
yes.
types that we do in DP. So
Yes, I also mentioned the same, Ram.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I missed that point. That's what
No,
I
no.
want.
I also mentioned the same, that yes, we do not have to. It depends on the level of the students, and also it is. I did not mention about the PRC though. Thank you very much for that. But yes, it is already defined in the PRC that in which level and for which category ab initio, how many things you have to teach, and for the SL and HL level English, what are the things that you need to focus on. Yes. And we also always can look back into the past question papers from, so that we get a better understanding, because that gives us a clear understanding that how to focus on the text types, because they have already 5 options all the time, so we can pick from one from there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So the SL and the HL level. So what are the difference between the SL and the HL level? So this is something that I have already pointed out. It is specifically very easy for the DP teachers to understand. The curriculum differences, depth and breadth of the content, language skills development, differentiation in task, depth of text analysis, critical thinking and research skills, exam preparation, support and differentiated instruction, feedback and assessment. I will only talk about the feedback and assessment here, because the rest of the things we all do from the PYP level till the DP level. Am I right? Because these things we always focus on, but the feedback and assessment. I want Ram to share that when we talk about feedback, Ram, it is always like, whether we are, can you allow me 1 minute? Sorry. So yes. Uh, so I think our meeting will be end again in 10 minutes. So I'm just going to go quick with that. Feedback and assessment I was talking about. Ram, feedback, when we talk about feedback, we miss one thing, that is constructive feedback. Do you agree?
Uh, Absolutely. The feedback always has to be constructive.
Yes,
Feedback doesn't mean we always pinpoint and highlight the mistakes that they're making.
yes,
Feedback must include how they can improve. What are
yes,
the areas where they need to improve, and then
yes,
giving also suggestions on how they can improve. And we can also suggest them the resources that they can refer to or they can
yes,
explore in order to improve where they need to improve. So yes, I
absolutely.
completely agree with you. It has to be constructive. Otherwise, it has no meaning.
Absolutely. I'm moving on to the next one. As I'm going to share my presentation with you all in the PDF form, so I believe that you all can check, and if there is any confusion, always get back to me. So number one is how to design assessments. So I have mentioned a few points according to my practice, that align assessment with objectives. This is very important, and ensure that the assessments reflect on the program's objectives. We always can refer back to the guidebook that we have with us. PRC is another place where we can actually always go back and forth for our clarification. Varied assessment, that means designing assessments based on the level of the students and their, you know, and what is expected of them. If someone is in the basic level, I cannot give them the higher level assessment. So this is something completely going to destroy even the, prospect of the student, whether he or she can improve. Authentic task, I already mentioned about that. Assessment criteria should be very clearly explained to the students. This is one area that most of the teachers we do not do, and sometimes we miss out on these things. We must be very careful when we are actually setting the assessment criteria and explaining it beforehand, before we actually hand it over to the students, the assessment paper. And then formative and summative assessment. The constant formative assessment is not the good idea, I'm telling you guys. It has to be after you explain a certain content or the contents properly, then you design the formative and finally go to the summative assessment. Do not rush for the assessments all the time. Prior knowledge assessment is something that you should always be very careful with, because that will allow you to understand the level of the students. But the formative assessment we keep on taking, but it has to be, of course, it has to be when you are explaining a certain content to the students in a way where you can really think that they are ready right now. Do not rush with that. I usually do not do that. I'm not sure that whether you people do it or not, but do not rush with the formative assessment, because that gives the students a lot of pressure. They think that if I'm missing out on that, I will not be able to meet the target. No, do not do that. Help them to understand the content in a way that they are comfortable in participating whenever you're designing an assessment. And finally, what is expected, because I'm also running right now, because I have to actually close the meeting within I think 5 to 6 minutes. So this is what we are supposed to expect from the students and what we must. Okay.